Voluntourism is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It sells wealthier people access to impoverished and struggling communities in exchange for a life-affirming experience. Kids would see vans of volunteers pulling towards them, and they'd quickly rub dirt on their faces so that they'd be more appealing, ironically, to the volunteers and look like they needed more help. Each of us paid thousands of dollars to go on this trip. Of that trip fee, almost none of it went to the orphanage. The primary goal, we were told, was to build a library. Our work was so bad that the local builders who were working alongside us would
they come by and destroy it. So they're talking about volunteerism.
Oh!
Folks pay to go do those like missions.
The feel good because I'm white thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just rich people out of touch. Honestly, like the shit's evolved so much. It used to be just white folks, and now it's folks from like different communities doing it now. Yeah. And it was like, mostly white women back in the day. Mm-hmm. If you guys aren't aware, there's like these trips that people take either to parts of Asia or Africa or even sometimes Latin America where they like, we're going to build a school or all this stuff, and you pay thousands of dollars to go do it. And you know, it's funny to me because like these are generally like people between the ages of 18 to 24, and every time I would see people, even folks I went to school with, take these trips, I'd always laugh in my head. Having lived in Ethiopia for many years and then lived in Canada for many years, I always thought it was so funny. Like, you live in Canada, you got so many standards. You want to build anything, you got to go through an architect. You got to do all this other stuff. You got to go through contractors. Everyone has to get government approval, the dimensions, everything. And then they just choose these random motherfuckers who work at Starbucks, who can't even spell your name correctly, but all of a sudden they're going to build you a school. It's like, bitch, who trusts in Sabrina to put a roof over your head? She can't even write ABA without putting an extra B in the bitch. I'm not trusting her for nothing. I'm not trusting her for nothing.
That's most of her fans.
Yeah, I'm not trusting these niggas either. No, but I'm just being honest. Like, it is one of those things. And I remember these people would take these pictures and then sometimes they tag me like, oh, what do you think? Like, we were here. I'm like, first off, why are you tagging me when you look like I'm one of the few African niggas you know? One. Two. Two is like, the shit is actually so insidious and so toxic. I'll tell you why. They go to these really poor, impoverished communities, okay? They look nothing like the locals. They don't speak the language. They have no connection, okay? And these are generally a lot of impoverished kids. There's orphans, all this stuff. They go there. They play with the kids. They get close to them. They spend time taking pictures. They document everything. It goes up on social media. They build these bonds with these kids who've either lost their parents to war, famine, all this other stuff, okay? And then these motherfuckers just up and disappear after building these bonds with these kids. I had one girl talking to me about the fact that one of the people that she made a contact with over there still contacts her to this day, and like she can't handle the relationship, it's too intense, and like so she ignores the messages. I'm like, you dumb fucking cunt. You're the one who took this child who's lost most everything, got really close to him, feel perfectly fine with keeping your fucking pictures with the individual on your social media, but you can't maintain a bond with the motherfucker? Of course you look stupid in this shit.
So what happened?
She never replied to this motherfucker.
So what happened? You adopted a dog and shot him in the back of the head when he was too much.
Listen.
Same memo.
Listen, this is fuckboy behavior, tourism edition, okay?
Wow.
And for me, I always never... It is so nefarious for the places involved as well, because now these kids, their only perception of whiteness in these rural areas is of those who come in, you know, take a bunch of pictures, treat them as tools, and then disappear. That's weird, ain't it? Imagine just being treated like a zoo attraction, because that's what it is. Let's go check out the safari with little poor African niggas. That's what this is.
No, it's with the there's a feeling that you're helping. I'm not saying that every tour is like that and everything that people do like that is like that. But yeah, it does raise a question. Like, what are you doing? It's more than just a tour when you go to the zoo. It's more than that. Because when I go to the zoo, yes, I do it for me, but I just want to see nice things. When they do these kinds of things, I actually want to feel like I'm helping, like I'm doing something. You know what I mean? And I always look at that shit weird. Like, I understand some of the people I know go in these tours and stuff like that, right? But I always, that question is always in the back of my head. Like, okay, But what's underlying? What's under there? Let me mean. There's a lot of people that need help here. You know what I mean? You got your own people suffering here. But you actually, like, what is the thought process? Like, there's something I cannot help but be like, I don't know.
Listen, it's ego-inducing. Imagine spending $5,000 to go lay down bricks that are gonna get torn down right after you fucking leave. If you really cared, you could have donated to an organization that actually does a lot of the labor and would do it properly and do it far more effectively. But you do this for your own ego. That's what this is for.
Well,
That's what this is for.
Well, the reason why they don't donate to those industries and stuff like that, and the reason why I wouldn't donate, man, I don't trust them. And there's been some of these, but because there's so many of these organizations that say, oh, please pledge money, we're going to build this, we're going to build that, and actually take the money and never build shit. And big organization, like, you know, Red Cross and everything, they did some shit in Haiti that was foul as fuck. Foul. Where you raise $6 million and then you only build 6 houses. And when I'm talking about 6 houses, I'm talking about 4 walls each houses, not houses. You know what I mean? So at some point you look at that and you're like, you know what? Let me go over there and help myself. So I'm not gonna be ready to take it on like one direction only and be like, oh, if it's that, then it's that. I'm not gonna say that. That, oh, if you're going to help, it's actually your ego. I'm not gonna say that, but it does raise a question.
It is your ego, and it's a lot of arrogance, because people who are not from these places, who've never set foot in there, want to walk in and think they can help. You can't help. You don't even really understand the problems. You don't have the skill set. You go in there for 2 weeks, what are you going to fucking help? You have zero conception of like the culture from a first-person standard. You can't help. I understand what you're saying about NGOs. There's plenty of corrupt ones. Absolutely. That's also your responsibility, not just to give money to people, but to do extensive research to make sure your money is actually going where you are. Of course, with organizations as big as the Red Cross, you're going to have certain chapters that are corrupt. You're going to have certain people within that who are going to steal money. But yeah, people talk about, oh, I want to go down there and help myself. If you're not going there for an extended period of time, you just jerking yourself off. What is 2 weeks going to do? You don't even have time to fucking meet enough locals to understand anything, let alone have the conversations. How are you going to help? I don't care so much about people wanting to make themselves feel good. You know, you want to jerk yourself off. You want to throw money into some greedy person's hand who's going to sell you on an experience. Like, listen, some people go skydiving. Like, you want an experience? Go get your experience. I don't care. And my issue is not even with people wanting to go back to understand and see for themselves. I think everyone should. But I think the arrogance of thinking you can help that way is what I'm against. Just go to learn and understand. Start there. You can't fix a problem unless you really understand what it is. And you won't learn about it on Facebook posts. So you got to actually sit there and spend time. You got to see the intricacies of the system. Because guess what? Corruption ain't simple. Poverty is not simple. It's not you throw it. You got to really understand it. And so you want to go back and understand and see for yourself? Go for it. But don't feed me this bullshit about you helping. You're not helping. You're feeding your own ego, which is everyone's entitled to that. But when it comes at the expense of these communities, it comes at the expense of these places. And who are these people you're putting money in? Because they're using these people too. Don't exactly sound like the most stand-up people. I could be wrong, but you want to talk about giving money to the wrong NGOs? Hey, these tourism people, probably not the best people either, right? So, because they have a vested interest in keeping the community as poor as possible to continuously generate income. Go ahead.
How do they call it?
Volunteer tourism.
The minute you put tourism, it's weird.
Yep.
Cause then it's linked to profit. Tourism is gonna let me see the world. What are you, Aladdin? I can show you the world. No, it's weird. So you make a whole business out of it. In an ecosystem, however the fuck you say that word, of businesses linked together in order for you to see the world and to feel that you're helping. Sexual tourism, benefits. Tourism, there's always a benefit, someone that benefits. It's weird.
The local builders who were working alongside us would come back while we were sleeping and undo our work and redo it. I told one of the chaperones from my school on the trip about what I'd seen and was advised to keep it to myself. You have stories of people donating bags full of toys that the orphanage director then goes and gives to his own kids or sells or locks in a closet so that the next group of volunteers will donate bags of toys. Because if they see kids playing with tons of toys, they won't bring toys. If they see kids sleeping on a good bed with a good mattress, they won't donate money for better beds and better mattresses. I've been involved in volunteerism for over a decade. The language used by volunteerism tends to be along the lines of, you can change the world and find yourself all at the same time. I wanted to physically go out to be that change, make a difference, be a global citizen. I definitely was thinking about how it would look when I applied to college and how it would look on my resume. I convinced my parents to pay a couple $1,000s for me to be able to go on this trip to Tanzania. It was about 3 weeks long. We were a predominantly white group. When I was in Tanzania, a young woman was questioning her sexuality and was being encouraged by this volunteer to live openly. The reality of this young woman's life was that she lived in a community where doing so would put her at very great physical danger. And so this volunteer was so focused on her own moral compass and moral values that she...
That's going into another country, not knowing what's going on and how people interact and and just being like, no, what you should do is totally do this and that. That's wrong. That's just, you judge, how'd you call that? Ethnocentrism? You judge other people according to your own values and you're like, yeah, no, that's how we do. Oh my God. And then you put motherfuckers in danger.
So
It's like whenever, you had white friends. Whenever you had white friends and your white friend would say, if your mama hates you, just call the police. No, I will die before the police gets here. Okay. And that's what happened in your house. Go ahead.
So earlier I said, you can't help by going somewhere for 2-3 weeks. You don't even understand the problem. You don't understand the culture. How could you ever help? You have these people going here. Imagine going to fucking Uganda. Why are you gay there? Seeing a young child who may be confused about his young Ugandan child, and you come in here from fucking San Francisco, fucking butt plugs out the whatever you got going on. Shout outs to you. Rainbows, leprechauns.
What does that have to do with
Listen, you know what I mean? Listen, live whatever you got.
You went from butt plugs to leprechauns, bro?
Right, because rainbows and leprechauns.
Yeah.
Okay, pot of golds, okay?
Wrong.
Okay?
Wrong.
Listen. And you come here and you're just trying to talk to this person without taking the time to understand. You're coming in from your own cultural experience and theirs, and there's no overlap.
What do you mean? You live in Jamaica? You should totally come out to your parents.
Like, do you guys understand why I say the insidious stuff isn't necessarily the money and them virtues? I don't care. The problem is the communities that they get involved in and how bad it is for them. This is the issue.
I couldn't quite see how the advice she was giving this young woman could potentially kill her. The directors of the orphanage did not see the children's health as a priority. We were advised by other long-term volunteers at the orphanage that when residents did get malaria, despite there being money to pay for them to get medical care, they were not provided with medical care. The leadership of the orphanage were unwilling to spend the money. 80% of children who live at orphanages have not lost one or both parents. They are not orphans. They don't have birth certificates. They don't have IDs. No one knows who they are or where they are. These children are anonymous. The thing that really haunts me is the connection between orphanages and child sex trafficking.
There was a story that broke out a little while ago about this white dude from England who went to Thailand. and it's such like, somewhere on the deep web, a bunch of images are showing up of like anything from toddlers to young kids getting diddled, okay? Getting ran through. And it was like such disturbing stuff, but they were showing up on the dark web. And it ended up happening that a sting in the US ended up finding this dude's name and location. And then it came back and he was a volunteer tourism person. He's someone who's supposed to go to these orphanages and help. Young man, 25, 23. And basically he was using the kids. And like some of the organizers knew about it. They were trying to hide it because they didn't want the scandal back on them, or they were getting money under the table. But yes, especially in these places where there's no laws, where poverty is abundant and anyone can be bought, rich people or people of medium means go there, and that's where they do their stuff. You know, this is not like something that brings me pleasure to break the news to anybody or tell folks about. It's a lot of darkness once you leave this kind of Western bubble. In fact, people leave this Western bubble to engage in most of their darkness. So when she says there's a connection, it's like, That's putting it lightly. They're brother and sister. You get what I'm trying to say? Anytime you see volunteer tourism, anytime you see NGOs, guess what? They're probably got a bunch of scandals involving diddling kids. Your favorite NGOs, favorite organizations.
Name them.
Name them, put in the words child diddling right beside it, and there's going to be a bunch of articles popping up. And that's just the stuff that you hear about.
Even the UN. Even the NATO.
Oh, yeah, the peacekeepers.
NATO, peacekeepers.
Peace for who?
Peace of, really, the only thing about peacekeepers is because they keep pieces on them, and that's it.
There are Brits, there are Americans, there are Australians who've been arrested, and that's just the tip of the iceberg for exploiting children while making money from people like me who wanted to do good. Voluntourism is continuing to grow as an industry. During the pandemic, the trip providers who are the most successful were actively marketing trips to Tanzania as an opportunity to escape COVID and pretend like it didn't exist. You can say that you are giving 100% of fees back to a community without doing that. You can say those things because no one's checking up on you. No one's verifying that this is happening. The reason why it continues to increase is that many of the experiences that are similar to what I had as a volunteer of having children running towards me and wanting to sit on my lap and wanting me to carry them are still so emotionally compelling. They're still so alluring. It feels so good.
Those people are not checked because mainly most of these organizations, just like church and everything, do not pay taxes. They don't have to tell nobody where the money goes. They don't have to keep a book. Why? Because they don't have to. They don't pay taxes. They don't keep a book. Money comes in, money comes out. How much money comes in? Meh. How much money comes out? And where? Meh. They don't have to do that. So,
You know, and shout out to her. I appreciate her coming out to say this stuff and all this stuff. But same time, Boo Boo, you were doing it for 10 years. That's a long fucking time.
yeah.
That's a long time to not see the truth. I'm not trying to condemn you. I'm just saying. 10 years? That's a long fucking time. But
motherfuckers want to believe.
I'm not gonna jump on her because that's not really the issue here at hand. But yeah, it's honestly sad. And yeah, every time I see this on my timeline, every time I see people posting their little pictures with their little African child that they claim to love so much, but I haven't spoken to in 10 years, like, you know, I roll my eyes.
And I move on.
You know, I roll my eyes. I roll my eyes. Let's just build a fucking school. Melissa, shut up. You're not building nothing. Okay? You have to imagine, like, think of the arrogance of thinking you're going to build a school. It's just so crazy to me. Because you know they don't, because they know they wouldn't be allowed to build a home here. So they go to these countries and say they're going to build a home under standards they know would never be acceptable here. So there's a certain level of arrogance and disgust.
Just that concept. Just that concept is fucked up. Would you build a house here? No, because, you know, we have standards. Oh, so they don't. So they get crumbs. Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not like this is like, oh, I'm going to make her a cake. It's a home. A landslide happens, everyone dies because you didn't build it properly. What are you talking about? The reason why we have these regulations is to avoid casualties. But you just think that with you, with zero education, zero knowledge, anything, you're going to go out here and you're going to fucking save lives. From what? Rain? What happens when everything comes falling down on them? No. That's the part that makes me unsympathetic to these young people who are doing this. It's like, you should know better. You just don't care to because you want to be ignorant to the fact. That's it. Because it makes you feel good to think you're helping. But you know what? The road to hell is paved with good intention. And this is a hard example of that. That's my thoughts.